أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
We'll begin from ayah number 21. أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. Do you not see that Allah sends down rain from the sky? Did you see it? Okay. What happened after that? فَسَلَكَهُ يَنَابِيعَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And then He makes it flow as springs and rivers in the earth. Do you see that? Yes, you do. فَسَلَكَهُ. Salaka is from the root letters Sin, Lam, Kaf. And salaka yasluku, suluk, is to insert one thing into the other. What does it mean? To insert one thing into the other. And it also means to channel, to pass through. Salaka is also to enter upon a path and continue to walk on it. So فَسَلَكَهُ, all the water that comes down from the sky, in the form of snow, in the form of hail, in the form of rain drops, what happens to it? It doesn't just collect in certain areas. Isn't it so? But rather what happens to it? The water begins to flow. And as it flows, it channels into يَنَابِيعَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Yanabir is the plural of yambur, from the root letters Nun, Ba, Ain. And Naba is the gushing out of water. When the water is gushing out of somewhere, in particular from a spring, from a water source. So Yambur is used for a water source, a spring. So Yanabir fil ard over here, although Yanabir means springs, but it may also refer to rivers and streams that are flowing. Because the point over here is that the water gushes out of the springs, right? It gushes out and it forms into what? As the water gushes out of springs, it forms into small streams. Isn't it so? Until it merges into rivers and so on and so forth. So the water comes down from the sky, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy, what does He do? He channels the water into springs in the earth. Why? So that the water does not just collect in one place, but rather people can continue to use it in different places. And it's a huge mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the water that comes down from the sky is actually absorbed by the earth. Isn't it so? That it's absorbed by the earth. Because imagine if it remained on the surface, how difficult life would become. Imagine we would always have floods. Just imagine if the earth was concrete, just like our streets and roads are. But the soil that Allah has made, the earth that Allah has made, it absorbs the water. And as the water is absorbed in, what happens? It goes deep underground water reservoirs, and from there are many springs. So the water is stored in the earth, and it is accessible in different places. In mountains, and also elsewhere. So فَسَلَكَهُ يَنَابِيعَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. ثُمَّ, then, يُخْرِجُ بِهِ زَرْعًا. Then He takes out, because of that water, through that water, zar'an, crops. Zar'an from the root letters Zai, Ra, Ain, and zar is used for crops, for plants, and over here zar refers to in particular fields of crop, because when there is water that comes down from the sky, only then we can have our fields. Isn't it so? And only then this vegetation is useful for us that we can consume it. So ثُمَّ يُخْرِجُ بِهِ زَرْعًا, and this zar مُخْتَلِفًا أَلْوَانُهُ is different in its colors. In Surah Az-Zumar, ayah 27, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَأَخْرَجْنَا بِهِ ثَمَرَاتٍ مُخْتَلِفًا أَلْوَانُهَا. Do you not see that Allah sends down rain from the sky, and we produce thereby fruits of varying colors? Over here, zar of varying colors, different colors. And remember, alwan is not just colors, but it's also types. So different types of plants come forth, which are a source of food for people. Then, what happens? Yahiju, it dries up. The same lush green fields, what happens to it? It dries up. فَتَرَاهُ مُصْفَرًّا, and then you see the same green field turning yellow. Yahiju is from the root letters Ha, Ya, Jim. hiyaj. Hiyaj is to be agitated, to be stirred up, and haijah is used for such ground whose grass has withered and it has completely dried up. You understand? Haijah is such ground, the grass of which has withered, it has completely dried up. And yahiju, it dries up. Why? Because of the change of weather, and also because of lack of rain. And as a result, فَتَرَاهُ مُصْفَرًّا, you see it turning yellow. Musfarran from the root letters, Sad, Fa, Ra, Sufr. What does that mean? Or Safar? Yellow. So Musfarran, one that is turning yellow. ثُمَّ يَجْعَلُهُ حُطَامًا, and then he makes it into broken pieces. Hutam, ha, ta, mim. Hatam is to crush something, to break something down. Hutama, hellfire. Why? Because it will break the people who are inside. So, or the fire is of such intensity that it crushes anything that comes into it. So, ثُمَّ يَجْعَلُهُ حُطَامًا, then those zar, what happens to it? They dry up, they turn yellow, and then they crumble down into small pieces. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Indeed, in that is surely a reminder for who? For those people who use their intellect. Again, ulul albab are mentioned. Those who don't just look at the surface, but they go deep down. They get the crux of the matter. They see, okay, what's the point? What do we learn from this? They get the essence. They get the gist. So, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى. And zikra, is a strong reminder. For who? For those who use their intellect. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows this to us every single year. Isn't it? That as spring comes, lush, green, everywhere, from trees to grass to different plants. And mukhtalifan alwanu, if you compare the color of the tree to the color of the grass, although it's green, but the shade is different. Isn't it so? And if you look at the variety of the plants that grow, you won't be able to list it. Isn't it so? You see so much variation. And the water is flowing, isn't it? In the form of rivers. And this water is a source of purification. It's a means of drink for us. And it's also a source of irrigating these plants that we benefit from. But we see that these same plants, what happens to them? When there is lack of rain, or when there is a change of season, what happens to those same green lush plants? What happens? They dry up. They change in their color. The same green leaves turn orange, turn pale, they fall down. People crush them under their feet, and that's it. They're gone, finished. So, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى. In this is surely a strong reminder for those people who use their intellect. What is that strong reminder? What lesson do we learn from this? Resurrection, okay. The point over here is, if you understand the ayah correctly, that the earth is barren, Allah sends rain, it's green. Okay? And what happens when there's no rain? The same greenery, it turns yellow, and it's finished. So what's the lesson in that for us? That if you think about it, rain, many times it's symbolized as knowledge, revelation, isn't it? So when there is knowledge, when there is guidance in the life of a person, it's full of life, it's green, it's lush. And when a person takes that away from his life, he does not make the Quran a part of his life, then what happens? His life becomes boring, dried up, finished. Life is temporary. That is the main lesson that we learn from this ayah, from this example. That life is temporary. The greenery is not eternal. The varying colors, they're not long-lasting. They're just there temporarily for some time. And for the few days, for the few weeks, for the few months that they're there, we are so attracted by them that we think nothing ever is going to happen. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us that every peak has a decline. Every life comes to an end. Greenery turns yellow. Lush green trees become completely barren and empty without a single leaf on them. And this is mentioned in many, many places in the Quran. For example, in Surah Al-Hadid, ayah 20, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, اعلموا, know, أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. Know that the life of this world is nothing but amusement. You look at all the greenery, you get very amused by it. And diversion, distraction. You see it and you get lost in it. You don't want to go home. Just yesterday when we were there, I was telling some people, let's go. And they're like, no, I don't want to go. We won't go anywhere else, let's just stay here. So, it's a diversion. And also adornment, a zina. And also boasting to one another and competition in increase of wealth and children. This is what life is. And the example of that, كَمَثَلِ غَيْثٍ أَعْجَبَ الْكُفَّارَ نَبَاتُهُ ثُمَّ يَهِيجُ فَتَرَاهُ مُصْفَرًّا ثُمَّ يَكُونُ حُطَامًا. Like the example of a rain whose resulting plant growth pleases its tillers. Those who have worked hard on their fields, on their gardens, what happens? When they see the greenery as a result of the rain, they become very happy. They become delighted by that greenery. But then what happens? It dries up and you see it turned yellow. And then it becomes scattered debris. It turns into scattered bits. And in the hereafter, Allah says, وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ عَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانٌ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. And in the hereafter is severe punishment and forgiveness from Allah and approval. Meaning for some, there will be punishment. For others, there will be forgiveness and approval. And what is the worldly life except the enjoyment of delusion? What is the worldly life except just delusion? You enjoy it, but it deludes you. It deceives you. Because it's not permanent. It's temporary. And you see, any kind of happiness that you receive in this dunya, whether it is in the form of children, whether it is in the form of family or wealth or a job or beauty, health, anything, what happens to it after some time? It declines, isn't it? It doesn't remain with you forever. For example, the same parents who were thrilled at the birth of their child, what happens? The child eventually grows up and he moves out. They waited for the day when they could welcome the child in their own house. And then the day comes when he leaves. Isn't it so? Wealth comes in and it goes. You buy something, you use it, and it ends up in the garbage. It goes away. So nothing of this dunya is eternal. So what's the lesson in this for us? Should we get lost in the dunya and forget that which is more important? No. We can never forget that which is more important. This is a test. That what do you do in the midst of all of this attraction and amusement? Do you still remember Allah, or do you get lost in that greenery? Do you get lost in that park? You know, sometimes you take children to an amusement park, and what happens to them? They get so lost in the rides that they forget there is even salah. They forget that there is even their parents with them. One ride to the other, where are the parents, where are the siblings? I don't know, I'm just with my friends, I'm having fun. And when the park is about to close, then they wonder, I think I'm hungry. They get tired then, and then they start looking for their family members. But the whole day, they were so busy having fun, they didn't even care about where the rest of the people were. Because they were busy having fun. So, and this is a great lesson for us, that this life, yes, it's full of delight. It's full of happiness. It's full of many blessings. But a person should never become heedless of Allah. He should remain grateful to Allah for all of these blessings. He should never become heedless to Allah. Because ultimately, everything of this dunya is going to decline. Every single thing. We learn, كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. Everything in this dunya, everyone is going to perish. And who will remain? Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٍ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ. Everything is going to get destroyed except Him. Only Allah is eternal. So why go for that which is temporary? Why not go for the one who is eternal? Why make yourself a servant of that which is temporary? Why not make yourself a servant of the one who is eternal? Because if you go for Him, then He will give you that which is much better. And if you go after that which is temporary, it will only give you disappointment. Isn't it so? You plant a lovely garden. You spend so much time. And what happens? One chilly wind. For a few days only. And what happens then? Finished. Your whole garden destroyed. So if you go for that which is temporary, that which is transitory, it will only bring you disappointment. It will never bring you true happiness. But if you turn to Allah, He will bring you true happiness. أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. So is one whose heart Allah has expanded to accept Islam. فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. And he is upon a light from his Lord. أَفَمَنْ. The ayah begins with a question. A comparison is being made. That one is the person whose heart Allah has opened for Islam. And as a result, this person is on nur by the idhn of his Lord, by the tawfiq of his Lord. And on the other hand is who? فَوَيْلٌ لِلْقَاسِيَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ مِنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. So woe to those whose hearts are hardened against the remembrance of Allah. أُولَئِكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Those are the ones in manifest error. So on one hand is the one whose heart is open, he is on nur, and on the other hand is the person who is hard-hearted, whose heart is not affected, does not humble, does not change. What does it mean by sharh sadr? أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Sharaha literally is to slit something lengthwise. What does it mean? To slit something lengthwise. And then this word is also used for to cut open and spread meat. Have you ever tried cutting a big piece of meat? What do? You have to slit it lengthwise, and as you slit it, you spread it. Okay? And as you spread it, then when it has spread open, then you can cut it into smaller pieces, like for example steak. Okay? So sharh literally is to slit something lengthwise and then cut open and spread. So it was closed in. As you slit it, what happened? It became vast. It became big. Do you get it? This is what sharh is. From this, the word sharh is also used for explaining something, exposing something. Because when something is explained, what happens? The text is actually very brief, but when you explain it, then it becomes a paragraph long. One line becomes a page long. Isn't it so? It was very short, but it became bigger. Why? Because you did its sharh. You opened it. You stopped at every word. You stopped at every sentence. So sharh is also to explain. You may have heard of the word tashrih. Tashrih is explanation. Okay? So sharh sadr. Over here, sharah Allahu sadrahu. That Allah opened up His chest. What does it mean by this? That Allah opened up His chest. This is not physically. Okay? This is in the intangible sense, in the ma'nawi sense, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened His heart so that He was able to understand and He was able to wholeheartedly accept the truth. Because when a person's heart is closed, then what happens? You tell him something, he doesn't get it. You tell him something, he doesn't accept it. Sharh sadr is when the heart is opened up, it becomes vast, it expands with the understanding of the deen. So a person is able to accept the deen wholeheartedly, happily, and then he's also able to act upon the deen. Do you understand? And before that, his heart was closed, unaware, unfamiliar, no idea about what the deen is, no love for the deen, no interest in the ayat of the Quran. But when the heart was opened up, it became spacious. He was able to accept the Quran. He was able to understand the Quran. He was able to act on the Quran. Ever faced difficulty, he was able to have patience over it. So, أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. So what is Sharh Sadr? To understand, accept, and act on the deen. Because when the heart is closed, you don't understand. When the heart is closed, you don't accept. When the heart is closed, you don't act on the deen. So أَفَمَنْ شَرَحَ اللَّهُ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. So he accepts the religion, and his heart is inclined to it. His heart is in it. فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. And then as a result, he is on nur from his Lord. What does it mean by nur? Over here. Guidance. So فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. He is upon light from his Lord, and from his Lord by the tawfiq of his Lord. That Allah gave him tawfiq, he is upon light, meaning whatever he does is right. He is rightly guided. He is in receipt of guidance. So he has ilm, because nur is also used for knowledge. Isn't it so? So he has knowledge. He has insight. He can see what others don't see. And on the other hand is who? فَوَيْلٌ لِلْقَاسِيَةِ قُلُوبُهُم مِّن ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Qasiyah. Qasiyah from the root letters Qaf, Sin, Waw, Qasawa. And Qasawa is used for hardness. And for the heart, hardness of the heart. What does it mean by hardness of the heart? When the heart does not soften. It does not accept. You see, rocks, you can break them. But can you melt them? No, you cannot. You can crush them. But can you spread them like you can spread meat? You cannot. This is how rocks are. So, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْقَاسِيَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Woe to the hard hearts, مِنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ, from the remembrance of Allah. Meaning their hearts are hard against the dhikr of Allah. And the dhikr of Allah, as you know, it includes the Quran. It includes the mention of Allah. It includes the tasbih of Allah. So, even the Quran is recited before them, but their hearts are unaffected. Warning is given, but the heart does not soften. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْقَاسِيَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ مِنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أُولَٰئِكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Those, they are in clear error. And you see, min over here has also been understood as because of. That their hearts are hardened because of the dhikr of Allah. Meaning the more they hear the dhikr of Allah, the harder their hearts become. Does it happen? Does it happen? The more a person is told about the religion, the more averse he becomes. Isn't it so? There are some people who are like that. So such people, Allah describes them as those who are in clear error. So in this ayat, two people are being mentioned. One is the person whose heart Allah has opened up for Islam. So he has knowledge and understanding of the deen. And it's not just that he has knowledge and understanding of the deen, but he is also happy and content with it. He has satisfaction. He has contentment. He is a happy person because he has wholeheartedly accepted the deen. And فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. And then he also has insight. So the person whose heart Allah has opened up for Islam, he is on nur, by which he is guided in this dunya and also in the hereafter. With the help of this nur, with the help of this light, he is guided where? In this dunya and also in the hereafter. What does it mean by this? That in the dunya he is guided by that light. That in this dunya he has insight. In this dunya he is able to see what others do not see. It doesn't mean that he is the only one who has a mind and other people don't have their minds. No. Other people have their minds, but they don't use them the way this person uses them. How does he use his mind? How? In the light of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. So he doesn't just go for temporary benefit, but he goes for eternal benefit. He knows that this dunya is temporary, so he puts everything in perspective, and then he sets the right goals and he takes the right action. Which is why no matter how dark the environment may be, no matter how difficult the situation may be, still what is his objective? The pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it show? This person has light. He can see. He knows what right is. He knows what wrong is. At times when other people are confused, they don't know what they should be doing, he can see. Why? Because he has nur. Do you get it? Because in the state of confusion, what happens? People who have knowledge of the deen even, what happens to them? They make big mistakes. When? When they are in a state of confusion. or they forget. They become heedless. But the person who is on nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him that tawfiq. What happens? He can see what others don't see. No matter how unfavorable the circumstances may be, he still takes the right action. Because he can see. He has insight. He is enlightened from within. And this nur is not just limited to the dunya, but this will also guide him in the hereafter. How? It will be a means of protection for him, and it will be a means of his guide to paradise. We learn in Surah At-Tahrim, ayah number 8, نُورُهُمْ يَسْعَى بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَبِأَيْمَانِهِمْ. Their light will proceed before them and also on their right. Because what will happen on the Day of Judgment is that after the hisab, the people who are to be sent to hellfire, they will be sent, and then who will be left in the hashr? Just the believers and the hypocrites. Because the hypocrites appear to be believers in the dunya. So what will happen then? There will be darkness. And each person will have light according to his faith, according to his iman, according to his actions. And it will only be limited to him. And with that nur, with that light, he will cross the bridge. Some will be able to pass quickly, and they will enter Jannah. And others, they will have no nur. Some people, their nur will be flickering. On, off, on, off. And the hypocrites, what will they say to the believers? That wait for us, give us some of your light. We were with you in the dunya. But in the hereafter, only a person's personal light is going to benefit him. So فَهُوَ عَلَى نُورٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ. This nur will help this person in the dunya and also in the hereafter. It will be his guide in dunya, showing him what to do, showing him what is right, showing him what takes a person to the pleasure of Allah, and in the hereafter, showing him the way to paradise. And on the other hand, is the person whose heart is hard, unaffected by the Quran. So there are some people who, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned, when the Quran is mentioned, their heart, it expands. It opens up even more. It becomes filled with happiness. It becomes filled with joy. It becomes filled with contentment. Why? Because the person finds out, okay, this also I can do, that also I can do. And on the other hand is a person who, when the Quran is recited, his heart becomes distressed. He becomes tired. He becomes bored. And you can see it on the face. And he begins to wonder, when will this come to an end? So some people, they're eager, they're interested, and others, they're disinterested. Those who are eager, what happens? Allah gives them guidance in this dunya, and He will help them in the hereafter as well. And those who are not eager, Allah says, فَوَيْلٌ, woe to them. What is wail? Kalima adab. Punishment for the possessors of such hearts. That the Quran is recited, but they're unaffected. They get bored. In Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 74, we learn, ثُمَّ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُكُم مِّن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. Then your hearts became hard after that, being like stones or even harder than rocks. When does this happen? When a person has no interest in the deen. You see, the thing is that Allah only offers guidance to the one who wants guidance. And a person who does not want guidance, then what happens to him? Allah does not force it upon him. And the more people tell him, the more averse he becomes to the deen. We learn in Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 125, وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَتْهُمْ رِجْسًا إِلَى رِجْسِهِمْ. But as for those people in whose hearts is a disease, this Quran only increases them in evil to their evil. They already have evil, and that evil, it only increases. Why? When the Quran is read to them. In Surah Al-An'am, ayah 122, we learn, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ كَمَنْ مَثَلُهُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. That the one who is dead, and we gave him life, and made for him light by which to walk among the people, can he be like the one who is in darkness, from which he's never going to come out? Are they the same? Are they equal in comparison? Not at all. One is interested in the deen, one is eager to know, and the other, no interest whatsoever. The one who is interested, will he bring about a change in his actions? Definitely. The one who is not interested, it's the same whether he has heard or he has not heard. No matter how much you tell him, he's not going to be interested. So there are two types of people. Those whom Allah has given tawfiq. Why? Because they want guidance. And secondly are those who don't have tawfiq. Why? They don't want guidance. Which is why even when guidance is offered to them, what's their reaction? Aversion and increase in hardness. So this is why we should keep making dua to Allah that, oh Allah, open up my heart to the deen. Open up my heart to the Quran. So when you make the dua, Rabbi shrah li sadri, that, oh Allah, open my chest, that whatever you say, I accept it. Whatever you say, my heart can take it, and I'm able to act on it. And this can only happen when a person is understood. So I'm able to understand, accept, and act on the deen. Ya muqallib al-qulubi, thabbit qalbi ala dini. So this is essential for a person to be rightly guided, that a person has interest in the deen. And this happens with the tawfiq of Allah and also a person's own desire. So for this, we have to make dua to Allah. Allahu nazzala ahsan al-hadithi. Allah has sent down the best statement. There are people who are interested in this statement, and there are others who are averse, who have no interest. When they hear, they only increase in their hardness. It's not that there is a problem with the Quran. No, there is no problem with the Quran. The Quran, Allah calls it ahsan al-hadith, the best speech. How is the Quran the best speech? In its style, in its topic, in its contents, in its messages. It's the best speech. And also it's the best speech because whose speech is it? The speech of Allah. So Allahu nazzala ahsan al-hadith. And if you think about it, so many ahadith exist. Isn't it so? I'm not talking about the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but I'm talking about generally. So many books, isn't it? So many statements of people, perhaps words of wisdom, isn't it so? But whose speech is the best? The speech that Allah has revealed. Allahu nazzala ahsan al-hadith. And what is this ahsan hadith? Kitaban. It's a book. What kind of a book is it? It's mutashabihan. One that is resembling, similar to one another. Alike. Mutashabih from the root letter sheen baha. Sheen baha. We have done this word earlier as well in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَأُتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا. And mutashabih, this is ism fa'il, one that resembles the other. One that is similar to the other. So how is the kitab mutashabih? That its parts resemble one another. Do you understand? The parts of the Quran, they resemble one another. So in other words, this book, it is consistent. It is coherent. It's not contradictory. If you think about it, many of the ayat of the Quran, they are similar in their wording and their meaning. What does that show? That the message of the book is the same. It is consistent. The focus of the book is one. The contents are the same. The subjects are the same. So it is from who? It's only from Allah. Because if this book was from other than Allah, then what does Allah say? لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اِخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. They would have found a lot of contradiction in this Quran. But the fact that there is no contradiction in the Quran, rather the themes are the same, the topics are similar, the message is the same, there is repetition, what does it show? That it's from
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Because think about it, 23 years it took for the Quran to be revealed. 23. And if a person is writing a book in 23 years, would his thinking not change? Of course. Would he not come up with new and new things? Of course. But the fact that the Quran is consistent, it is coherent, the message is the same from the beginning till the end, it shows that this Quran is from Allah. It's the word of Allah. So mutashabihan. Its parts resembling one another. So the parts of the Quran resembling one another, they are for our own benefit. They're not to bore us. Because sometimes we get bored. Or the same thing, I know about it. Like for example, the story of Adam alayhi salam, we learned about it in the previous surah. Some people might think, oh, this has been mentioned so many times. But if you think about it, yes, it has been mentioned so many times, but each time, isn't there a different lesson that you learn? Isn't there? There are many different lessons that you learn. And depending on the context in which that incident is mentioned, you understand it differently. You understand a new lesson out of it. And at that time you need that reminder. It's relevant. So kitaban mutashabihan, it's coherent, it's consistent, it's not contradictory. And this kitab, it's also mathani, one that is oft repeated. Mathani is the plural of the word masna. It's the plural of the word masna. And what does masna mean? Double. In Surah An-Nisa we learn masna wa thulasa wa ruba, in 2s, 3s or 4s. So masna is double. Double means something has been repeated 2 times. Isn't it so? So mathani, what is it? Oft repeated. So this kitab is mathani, meaning in it is repetition. What does it mean by this? In it is repetition. That the teachings, the verses, the nasiha, the maw'idah, the qasas, the amr, the nahi, wa'da, wa'id, all of them, they are repeatedly mentioned in the Quran.